Alright, here is Miss Christmas's surefire way of labeling moon phases. First step, whenever you see one of these images and they're asking you to label the moon phases, or they ask you what phase you're looking at some point, is you have to figure out where the sun is. Always go and draw the sun wherever the white half of the moon is. So in other words, I'm going to have the sun over here. And I know that the sun goes on the left side because as I look at the moons, as I go around the circle, each one of these moons has the white on the left side of the moon, which that's the lit up side of the moon. And of course the sun is what's doing the lighting up. So I know that sun has to be on the left side. And then on the right side, that's the back side of the moon, and it's not receiving any light from the sun. Alright, so my next step after I figure out where the sun is I start labeling moon phases. And I'm going to start with just the new moon. I know that the new moon is always on the same side of the earth as the sun is. So in this example here would be my new moon. Opposite the new moon would be the full moon. And once I have figured out where new moon and full moon are in the sun, I draw a line. It goes all the way across. And now that's going to divide my picture into two pieces. And we'll see why we divide it here in just a few minutes. Alright, now that I've found new moon and full moon, next thing I know or I want to label is my first quarter and third quarter. Because those are the four phases of the moon that are only visible for one night during the cycle. So once I find new moon and full moon, to figure out which way around the circle I'm going to go to first quarter, is I'm always going to go counterclockwise. So I draw myself an arrow so that way I can keep track of which way I'm going. Because I don't want to forget and go the wrong way. So I'm always drawing in that arrow. And when I draw in the arrow, that would make this my first quarter. And this one up here, the third quarter. And just like when I did new moon and full moon, I'm going to draw a line again. I'm going to change colors here. Between my third quarter and first quarter moons. So now I've divided my diagram in half. This time right side versus left side. Alright, from our vocabulary words, we know that when the light is getting brighter, we are waxing. Just like when I wax a car and make it shinier and brighter, waxing is getting brighter, and waning is when it's getting darker, or it's losing light. So if I start at new moon and I go to full moon, ask yourself, is the moon getting brighter or is it getting darker? Well, from new moon to full moon, we are getting brighter. So the bottom part, everything below this line is going to be waxing. And then everything above the line, where from full moon to new moon, I am waning. My moon is slowly getting darker and darker. In other words, it's not nearly as lit up as it started off. So everything up here above this line is going to be in the waning phase. Now before I go in and try to figure out what the moons I'm going to label A, B, C, and D are, there's two other things I want to label on my diagram before I try and figure those out. I'm going to go back to my red pen. When you look at the moon, we have a crescent phase and we have a gibbous phase. And let's just think about this for a minute. When I'm in the crescent phase, crescent means you have less than half the moon is lit up. So a crescent phase is going to look a lot more like the new moon phase than it is like the full moon, because it's going to have very little light. When I get to the halfway mark, I'm either at first quarter or I'm just left third quarter. So we're going to label the side over here by the sun as the crescent. And then on the full moon side, since that's a full, the moon is completely lit up, gibbous means that more than half of the moon is lit up with light. So we're going to label this side over here the gibbous side. Now, as far as labeling the moons A, B, C, and D, now it's going to be very easy, foolproof, and I will not ever get my answers wrong if I set it up with this little quadrant diagram. Moon A is above the line that I drew between new and full moon. It's waning, and it's to the left side of my red line, which divides my crescent and my gibbous halves. So this one becomes, A becomes a waning crescent. B, again, is still on the left side of the crescent / gibbous line, but now it's underneath my waxing waning line. It's down here on the orange side, so everything below that line was waxing. So B is a waxing crescent. C, I'm still waxing because I'm still below the line. But now I'm over on the right side of my diagram, and the right side is the gibbous side. So C is going to be a waxing gibbous. And then it leaves me with just moon D, which is still on the gibbous side because I'm still on the right side of the diagram. But now I'm on the top half, so I'm back to the waning. And D becomes a waning gibbous moon. So, if you would set up any of your labeling diagrams with this crosshairs method, label which side is waxing, which side is waning, label which side is crescent, and which side is gibbous, then you have a surefire way of knowing where your waxing crescent, waxing gibbous, waning crescent, waning gibbous moons are. Because those are sometimes the hard ones. Those are the ones that kids miss more often than new moon and full moon. Just remember, counterclockwise. You're always going to go in a counterclockwise direction. So if you can remember where new moon is and full moon, and that we're going in a counterclockwise direction, the rest of this becomes much, much easier if you'll just set it up following these steps that I just showed you. If you have any other questions, please let me know, and I'll be more than happy to walk through it with you.